everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some healthy lunch meal prep recipes. If you are new around here, my name is Marissa. I am a pharmacist and health coach, and here on my channel, I love to make all different types of videos about healthy living, healthy eating, to help you guys get healthy food on the table consistently and realistically, and also to help you to regain your health. A huge struggle that I see many go through when they are trying to improve their eating habits is trying to figure out what to do about lunch. Lunch can be a big challenge. It's right in the middle of the day. We're super busy, and there's a huge temptation to want to go out to eat, whether that be at a sit-down restaurant or even just going through a drive-through. Unfortunately, the majority of the foods that you're going to find at a drive-through or even at a sit-down restaurant are not going to be filled with the most nourishing ingredients, and it's actually kind of scary at how many ingredients can be found in these food products. Recently, I actually went on the Chick-fil-A website. I took a look at some of the ingredients in some of their more healthier menu options, and the ingredient list was a paragraph long, and there were a couple ingredients in there that I was like, what the heck is that? It's a little scary, you guys. I understand that sometimes going out to eat is just something that we got to do. Maybe we just forget to pack a lunch that day, or just life happens. We left it in the car, whatever it might be. Sometimes going out is just something that we need to do, or something that you get to do with friends or family or something like that. And it's an enjoyable outing, and you make it a social thing. But as a long-term option, it's not going to be something that is going to really benefit you and your health, or also your wallet, because it's very expensive. So what I have found to help me to eat healthy, nourishing lunches each day of each week is to meal prep them in advance. So I'm about to prepare some foods to help me meal prep lunches for the week ahead, and I'm going to share with you those recipes right now. So I like to start by gathering all of my food ingredients. This way I've got everything that I need right in front of me, and I also know what I have on hand. So for example, for one of the recipes that you will see later on in this video, I really wanted to make some couscous, but I found that I was out of that. So instead I just opted to make some quinoa, and it turned out great. But it was nice to know all of this before I was halfway through the recipe. And then I like to go ahead and wash and prep all of my produce. In this video, I grouped each recipe together so that it's nice and easy to follow along, but usually when I am meal prepping or just cooking in general, I've got multiple projects going all at the same time, and so I have found that doing all of this makes meal prepping and cooking easier, less stressful, and it usually helps me to get done in a quicker time frame. There are lots of different ways that you can meal prep. One way is to prep each ingredient and then assemble them or cook them later on. Another way is to make into each individual recipe and just store them as is. And then another way is, taking it another step further, and that would be to actually create each individual meal container for whatever meal that you are preparing for. And in this video, we're talking about lunch, so preparing each individual lunch container for the week. So I personally do all three of these. It really just depends on the meal, the day, and also what I'm meal prepping. Some ingredients are going to taste the best when they are all mixed together and they have time to marinate, and then other ingredients kind of need to be separated and then mixed together right before I'm ready to eat them, to keep them staying fresh and tasty and all of that. So it really just depends, and I kind of just do a combination of all three of those ways. So the first thing that I am meal prepping today is some kale for kale salads. I love having salads at lunch, and unlike other types of lettuce, kale is one that can be prepped ahead of time and still stay fresh all throughout the week. So what I like to do is start by destemming it, rinsing it under some cold water. I will let that sit for about a minute or two in the colander so that the water can drain, and then I add it into a large mixing bowl. Next, add on a generous drizzle of oil. Today I am using avocado oil. Extra virgin olive oil would also be a great choice here. And then we're going to squeeze in the juice from half of a lemon. But before we juice it, we are going to zest it using a microplane. So go ahead and just zest this off to the side, leave it there, and we're going to use this in a different lunch recipe in just a minute. So once you squeeze in the lemon juice, you're going to use your hands to massage the kale leaves. You can also break up some of the pieces if they're pretty large in size. This way they are more bite-sized. And massaging the kale leaves helps to break it down and make it easier and more tasty to eat. Once I was done massaging the kale leaves, I put the kale into a food storage container, and then I put it in the refrigerator, and this served as the base for my salads throughout the week. The next food that I meal prepped were some sweet potatoes. So I like to roast them in the oven and eat them as a side dish or even topped on my salad. So I started by slicing off the ends and any part of the sweet potato that needed to be removed. And then I went ahead and sliced it into little bite-sized pieces. I find that they roast quicker this way, but feel free to slice them however you'd like. If you leave them as long strips, then it's like having roasted sweet potato fries, which are very delicious too. Once you are all done, go ahead and add the sweet potato pieces onto a cookie sheet. Now mine is lined with a silicone baking mat, which I highly recommend getting one if you don't already have one. I got mine off of Amazon and I'll leave it linked in the description box. It's very inexpensive, it's reusable, which is great, so it's just like a one-time investment and nothing sticks to it, and I don't really have to use a lot of oil, so all wonderful positives right there. Now if you're not using a silicone baking mat because you just don't have one yet, that's okay. Just make sure that you are greasing the baking pan or the foil paper that you're using. So now we're going to season the sweet potatoes with some spices. I love onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, a little salt and pepper, keep it really simple. And then I do add just a little drizzle of avocado oil and toss them all together using my hands. And then I bake them in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Mine cooked for about 25 minutes, but yours may be a little bit different just depending on how you slice them and how thick they are. So what you want to look for is that they are golden brown on each side and also fork tender. And I do recommend using a spatula to flip them about halfway through the roasting process. That way they are cooking evenly on both sides. So once they are all done, allow them to cool on the cookie sheet to room temperature and then store them in a food storage container in the refrigerator. Hey you guys, I wanted to take a quick moment to share with you a sneak peek into my cookbook. It's called the Simply Health with Marissa Cookbook, Eating to Nourish the Body and Soul. I have always loved to cook. I grew up in my kitchen with a deep appreciation for both food and eating. And a few years ago, I felt so strongly about bringing this love of cooking, food, and eating to all of you. As a pharmacist and integrative nutrition health coach, I know and have seen what can happen to our health when we aren't nourishing ourselves by eating lots and lots of real, whole, nourishing foods. Our body requires nutrients every day in order to stay healthy, provide us with energy, and to help us thrive in our life. But in addition to this, a huge part of healthy eating is also learning to cook and eat foods that are going to provide us with enjoyment, satisfaction, and even love. And when we can balance these two, we are able to promote health and actually enjoy food and eating again. This cookbook shares 23 of my staple recipes that I cook all of the time for myself and for my family, and they nourish both your body and your soul. I hope that you use this cookbook to help make healthy cooking and eating simpler, doable, and also incredibly delicious. There is a link in the description box to order your own copy today. Next up is a quinoa salad, and we are going to add lots of vegetables for this dish. So this was actually the first time that I made this salad, and I must say it was so good, and one that I will be adding to my recipe book and making again and again. I kind of made it up on the spot right here when I was filming it, which is kind of a daring thing to do, but that's okay. That's how I like to roll. And I made it with whatever ingredients I had on hand and whatever sounded good to me in the moment, and it turned out amazing. I absolutely loved it. So we need to start by cooking the quinoa. I measured half a cup of quinoa. I did a quarter cup of regular quinoa and a quarter cup of red quinoa because I love the color. And then I measured this into a fine mesh strainer, rinsed it under cold water. You want to rinse the quinoa under water prior to cooking it because it removes the bitter taste that would be there otherwise. And then I spooned this into a small pot and poured in a half a cup of water. I brought this to a boil and then reduced the heat and let it simmer. You want to give it a good stir initially, and then every few minutes give it a stir again, just to make sure that nothing is sticking. Also cover it with a pot lid, and once all of the water is gone, the quinoa is good to go. You're going to shut the heat and cover it and let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then you're going to use a fork to stir it, and this is going to produce nice fluffy quinoa, which is what we ultimately want. Allow this to cool while you chop the rest of the ingredients that we're going to add into this salad, basically all of our vegetables here. So for the salad, I chopped up some baby cucumbers, celery, some red bell pepper, red cabbage, carrot, some fresh parsley and rosemary from my garden. I had red onion, and basically I just chopped all of these up into really small bite-sized pieces so that everything is kind of the same size and it just all blends together very effortlessly in the salad once we mix it all together. And the best thing with something like this, you guys, is just use what you have on hand. If you don't have something that you see me using here, you don't have to use it. If you want, you could go grab it, but again, this is very customizable. And as I told you before, I used what I had on hand, what was in my refrigerator, and you can definitely do the same. And if there's something that you think would be really fun to add in here, go ahead and throw it in too. That's the best part about cooking. So this is what all of the vegetables looked like once I was all finished chopping. And then I left this clip in here because I wanted to show you guys a money-saving food tip. So the tops of the celery, the leaves, and maybe like the little bit of the celery that I'm not going to use in the salad, instead of throwing that away, I typically just add it into a Ziploc bag and then place it in my freezer. And then whenever I'm doing or making a stew or a soup or something, I will just like take out 1 or 2 of those and throw it in. It adds tremendous flavor and a lot of nutrients into whatever I am making. Even a gravy, that would work out great too. So now on to the best part, and that is the assembly of the quinoa salad. So in a large mixing bowl, you're going to add in the cooked quinoa, the lemon zest that we prepped earlier when we made the kale salad, all of the vegetables that we just chopped, juice from half of a lemon. This is the other half of the lemon that I didn't use earlier from the kale salad, along with a drizzle of avocado oil. You could also use extra virgin olive oil as well. That would be another great choice. A dash of salt and pepper, some pumpkin seeds, probably about 1/4 cup. And then for that salty, cheesy flavor, we're going to crumble in about 1/3 block of feta cheese. And lastly, go ahead and add in about 1/3 cup of dried cranberries. The dried cranberries, I feel like, were such a great addition here, and I'm so happy that I followed my instincts. I feel like it just gave like this nice chewiness, sweetness, flavor into this salad, and I feel like it just balanced out all the flavors and the textures, and in my opinion, it was like the highlight. So I loved it. This is what it looked like. And then I did do a taste test because, again, I was like kind of improvising on the spot on how to make this, and again, it was amazing. So once I was done, I just poured it all into a food storage container, put the lid on, and stored it in the refrigerator. And the last recipe that I prepped for my lunches this week were some Italian turkey meatballs. So in a large mixing bowl, I cracked in an egg. I also poured in a splash of milk and used a fork to scramble all that up. And then I added in some spices. So the reason that I am adding in a bunch of spices, as you see me doing right now, is because I am not using Italian style breadcrumbs. So I needed to add in that beautiful Italian flavor, and I did so by adding in some onion powder, garlic powder, some salt, some freshly ground black pepper. I also had some fresh herbs from my garden, so I had some parsley and some rosemary, so I chopped those up, added them in there. They added tremendous flavor. If I didn't have those on hand, I would just use dried parsley and dried rosemary. And then I put in some dried basil. I also had some dried oregano and some ground thyme. And then I used the fork to mix this until it was very well blended. Now I'm going to take a slice of bread and break it up with my hands into little pieces and place it in the bowl so that it can soak up the egg, milk, and spices mixture. I also want to say that I am super proud of this bread because I actually made it from scratch, and I'm so proud. I have been really wanting to get into making my own bread at home, and I just think that it's more nutritious, and I just really want to find the appreciation of bread and learn how to make it. And I really would love to make it, a part of my weekly or bi-weekly meal prep routine is to just make my own bread. And I have been playing around with it, lots of different recipes for a couple of weeks now. If you follow me on Instagram, then you already know all about this because I have been sharing that journey over on there on my stories. And I got into sourdough, and I'm kind of working my way through it. Right now I've made bread, English muffins, flatbread, pizza dough, and it was definitely a rocky process in the beginning, and I had a lot of failed baking attempts, but I think that I've turned a corner and it's getting easier, and I hope to start sharing all about that journey here on YouTube very soon. So after a couple of minutes of letting the bread soak in the egg, milk, and spices mixture, I used my fork to mash that all up. And then in the large mixing bowl, I also put in a little bit of chopped red onion. I thought that it would really taste good in these meatballs. And then I put in a pound of ground turkey. Then I just use my hands to mix that all together. And once it forms a large ball shape, then you know you are good to go. So I grabbed my cookie sheet that's lined with the silicone baking mat, and then I used an ice cream scooper or a meatballer and formed meatballs and placed them on the cookie sheet. And then I baked these in the oven at 375 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. I did go in with some tongs. You can also use a spatula, and I flipped them about halfway through just to make sure that they were browning on both sides. And once they are golden brown on each side and also cooked through on the inside, you are good to go. These are what mine look like. And then of course I had to do a taste test because, you know, you gotta. And they were delicious, perfectly seasoned. They were nice and light, filling, and I love them. So I let them come to room temperature and just cool off a little bit. And then I placed them in a food storage container, and I placed these in the refrigerator. For my lunches this week, what I did was just kind of add a little bit of everything that I made here into a bowl, and it was incredibly delicious. So that is what I meal prep for my healthy lunches for the week ahead. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching today's video. All of the recipes and the measurements and the ingredients and directions and everything are going to be listed over on my blog, which is on simplyhealthwithmarissa.com. So you can go ahead and print those recipes out, put them in your recipe book, and that way you can always refer back to them. If you guys are enjoying these healthy meal idea videos, then give the video a thumbs up and also let me know by commenting down below. Recently, I did a poll over on my YouTube community page as well as on my Instagram account to kind of assess like what types of videos and content you guys want to see from me. And so many of you were basically voting for the healthy meal ideas and the healthy recipes. And those are some of my favorite videos to create. So I'm really happy that you guys are enjoying them, but always let me know, and I'm always looking for feedback as well. So if there's something that you want to see from me, please let me know. I truly value that feedback. And that is all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much again for watching. Be sure to subscribe to get healthy food on your table and also to regain your health. I will see you in the next video. Bye.